The Stanley Cup Playoffs. So much drama happening that we have no choice but to break down all of the big moments from round one with a special playoff plus minus coming at you today. Plus, Preds aren't in the playoffs, but some of the guys we saw at the roster at the end of the year are doing big things for the Milwaukee Admirals in their playoff run. We'll break that down as well today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day every single day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, available to you wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at InsideThePreds.com.
Well, Preds aren't in it, but whoo, has this been an entertaining postseason to watch, Ann?
Yeah, this is a what in the shnikes is happening, and I'm here for every ounce. The theater major in me who loves hockey is living her best life right now.
Yeah. So much drama, and I feel like I just had to. I had to kind of represent today.
Yes, love the Maple Leafs.
So I got this. If you're familiar with the the Twitter handle at Hockey Jerseys, they do great mystery hockey jersey dumps every year. I did one and got this Austin Matthews Maple Leafs jersey, and I was like, "This is fantastic." But I'm not really a Maple Leafs fan, so when am I ever going to wear this? And so playing this show, I was like, you know what? If not this weekend, then when?
When,
when? If there is ever just a custom time to wear it.
That, I'm telling you, the Toronto Maple Leaf story is one of my favorite stories, and yet that's just scratching the surface of the absolute chaos that we are watching unfold in round one. Yeah. It's glorious.
Like everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people picked a Stanley Cup matchup that now features both teams out in round one.
Yeah.
We have the best regular season NHL team in history bounced in round one for the second time that's happened in 4 years. So much going on, and number one, I think people are going to be very confused. Side note, people are going to be very confused if you haven't seen this podcast before. A guy wearing a Maple Leafs jersey with Red Wings stuff in the background visible and hosting a Predators podcast.
You're eclectic, Nick. Embrace that.
I feel like if you've not heard anything I've said before, you are going to be very confused. But let's talk about some of the stuff, Ann. With a special playoff plus minus, since it is Monday, you guys know how this works. If you're a long-time listener, we give pluses to the things that we like, minuses to the things that we don't, or that are, in this case, maybe a bad storyline. And let's start with a plus, and let's just start with it. The Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yes.
I put this on Twitter. The other day for perspective's sake. The last time the Maple Leafs won a playoff series, like won a game that clinched them playoff series, was April 20th, 2004.
Oh my God.
3 days before that, the Predators lost a Game 6 to Detroit 2-0 at the then Gaylord Entertainment Center. The Predators lost that series. That was the Nashville Predators' very first playoff series. The first time they made the playoffs in their franchise history. That was the last time the Leafs won a series. Preds have won 7 since then.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you, like, you know, if you're a longtime fan and you think back and like, oh, wow, that Steve Sullivan team seems like forever ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's how long it's been since the Maple Leafs have won a playoff series, folks.
Well, you almost have to put it in personal perspective to really go, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
Because what, 2004, what was I doing in 2000? Oh my gosh, in 2004, I had a 2.5-year-old and I was expecting my second.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, that was a long time ago. We're getting ready to launch all, but we're getting ready to launch that last one. That's like lifetimes ago. God bless Toronto. Y'all have held it together for
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah. A 2.5-year-old that's married now.
Oh gosh, wow.
That
Woo!
adds some perspective
Yes.
to you.
Okay.
I
Yes.
was a freshman in high school.
And cool as all get out. I just know it.
No, very wrong. Extremely wrong. But
Yeah.
I appreciate the thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me and the Maple Leaf story, first off, they take out the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have broken their streak of 3 consecutive times going
Yeah.
to the Stanley Cup Finals, so that's ending. But I said this last week, it kind of started to feel like the Chicago Cubs in 2016 a little bit. Like, even if you weren't a huge fan of the team,
Yes.
you kind of wanted to see it happen, just because it's like, yeah, you know what, they've been through a lot, their fans are long suffering. Just one time, what would it be like to see if they could win it all? And it's weird that we're saying this about a first round playoff series. But you know what? The Maple Leafs, they're a good team. They're fun to watch, filled with fun players like Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, who's really coming to his own this year, has been another really fun player.
What about Callie Yarncroke?
And yeah, that boy Callie.
That boy Callie.
And to me, it's just, kind of fun. It's fun to see the fans. I love seeing all those shots of Maple Leaf Square when that Tavares goal went in. And it happened against a good team, because I think a lot of people were just kind of ready for somebody else other than Tampa to kind of carry that Eastern Conference banner for a while.
Yeah. I was really surprised how well they did, just because we're so used to seeing it not go well. And when they didn't clinch in 6, I was like, oh, y'all, like, we can't have this. We can't have this. But I agree with you. For me, it was a fat plus to watch Toronto fans celebrate. And my favorite part of the entire thing was that the Toronto Transit Authority had to tweet out like, hey, we're really sorry. There are delays due to traffic and pedestrian congestion downtown. And the Maple Leafs Twitter retweeted it and said, sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, and
or it's Toronto, and so it's sorry.
Sorry. That's my bad. Sorry. But I love it. I love it because it is just, you're watching just relief. And I get it. All the people on Twitter, all the party poopers were like, you have to win 3 more series. Of course they know that. They've sat through it. They know what comes next. And maybe it's because I'm from Nashville and people rip on us like, oh, you hang a banner for everything. Like, look, you got to celebrate every step. You got to celebrate every step. So I'm here for Toronto. I'm here to see what they can do in the next round. No. They're a good team.
And if they lost that overtime game,
my gosh,
overtime game, that series went 3-3. You know what would have happened, man.
Oh my gosh.
What would have happened?
I can't even, I just can't even imagine. Almost. I can't imagine what would have happened, because it was now or never.
Yeah. How about another plus from you? What's been one thing you've loved about the playoffs so far?
Okay, I'm going to give a fat plus to what I like to refer to as bonus hockey. It feels like, and I haven't gone back through to look at other postseasons, but it feels like we're getting a fat lot of bonus hockey, a lot of overtime games, a lot of close, high drama games between these teams. And I'm here for it. We talked about Florida and Boston a little bit. We're going to talk, we talked about Tampa Bay and Toronto. These are like game 7, overtime, cliffhangers. I'm here for having really good competitive series. And I think that round 1, for the most part, has been really competitive hockey. But I'm also here for up the drama. Make
Yeah.
it take more than 3 periods. So there have been 14 games that went to overtime, and a couple of them went to double overtime. So I'm here personally for the bonus hockey. I will be curious to see, and I wonder about this, how much the extra games, the extra overtimes, how much of a toll down the stretch that's going to take on some of these teams that continue to move through,
Yeah.
like I don't want to take credit for the fact that Colorado won the Stanley Cup last year, but you're welcome that you only played 4 games and we
Yeah,
didn't really challenge you.
we certainly
You're
made it
welcome.
easy for them. Yeah. Toronto, Tampa Bay, 3 of those last 4 games went to overtime.
Yeah.
Hurricanes, Islanders went to overtime twice. I'm looking, and I believe this is like a unique thing. I don't remember this necessarily happening in previous series, but every playoff series has been to
Yeah.
overtime at least once.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily remember that happening in the first round last couple of years. Certainly, yeah. Well, I guess the Preds. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look at
Yeah,
that. But
I
yeah,
know, and I
any
should have gone back to look, but I was just like, "I'm here for this. This is
yeah, because
interesting."
Preds and Avs last year, game 2 went to overtime.
Christmas
I
miracle.
can't remember. I don't know. It's unique and it's fun for
Mhm.
sure. A lot of drama, especially when you're not watching it. A couple a couple of minuses and
Yeah.
to give out, and we will do that in just a second. Plus, we'll talk Admirals hockey a little bit there at the end. But first, want to mention today's show is brought to you by Athletic Greens, the founders behind AG1. I take AG1 every day. I love starting my morning with it. It is basically a green powder. You take 1 scoop of it, you throw it in a glass of water, mix it up, down it, and that is the extent of your morning vitamin routine. And that's because 1 delicious scoop of AG1 has 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. It's a special blend of ingredients that supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, aging, all of the things. I noticed after I started taking AG1, I had more energy throughout the day. I didn't feel like I was getting that late afternoon crash where I was just watching the clock with my head on my desk or trying to steal a nap during the day. I'm sure my employers are very appreciative of AG1. My stomach's not bloated. I feel like, just normal, some more energy. And I owe it all to AG1. It's something that cost me less than $3 a day, which I'm guessing is what some of you spend on your daily cold brew habit from that coffee shop down the street. And I like it because it's cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. You don't have to pay $20 for zinc, $20 for a multivitamin, $10 for B12. It's all in one little scoop, and it's an all-in-one nutritional insurance. So right now, time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Again, just 1 scoop in a cup of water in a cup every day. No need for a million different pills and supplements. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Again, all you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, and some things that haven't gone so well in the postseason. And I would like to give a minus to breaking the regular season wins record, because apparently it hasn't quite worked out for the
No.
past 2 teams that have done it. The Bruins, it's supposed to be the best regular season team we've ever seen in the NHL. High scoring and stifling defense. Good goaltending from Linus Ullmark, who's supposed to be the Vezina frontrunner. All of that just kind of went by the wayside in that 7-game collapse. And that's, I think, the jarring thing, Anne. This was a collapse from the
Yeah.
Boston Bruins.
Yeah. Boston, I think I saw a stat that in overtime, Boston turned the puck over in the neutral zone 7 times in overtime. And I was like, yo, y'all, that's our gig. What are you doing? What are you doing? This is not who you are. This is not what you do. But Boston was on the ropes. It's like Florida came out and was like, you know what? And Boston was up 3-1. It's like the Golden State Warriors from years ago that my son still torment my husband with. Like, you had a 3-1 lead.
Or the Toronto Maple Leafs multiple times over the past 19 years.
But it turned out okay for them this time. This one time, it turned out okay.
Yeah, but my favorite thing seeing on Twitter was like people saying, "Oh, so is Boston the new Toronto now?"
Oh gosh. Oh. But yeah, it was interesting to me because I had kind of the same thought, and I'm like, does the President's Trophy really mean anything? Does it mean anything? And I think the last time a team won the Stanley Cup and the President's Trophy was 2013. I think it was Chicago won it in 2013, won both of them in 2013. And I'm like, it's very interesting to me that the President's Trophy, it doesn't mean anything when it comes to winning what you're ultimately there to win.
Well, I think it's just parity in the NHL now. You know, there's so many good teams where even the quote unquote mid teams have tools that can help you win a series. And yeah, I mean, and Boston blew it. I mean, you look at these scores when the Bruins were up 3-1. They won games 3-1, lost game 2, but then won 4-2 and 6-2. And it just looks like, you know, the Panthers had absolutely no answer for them. That Boston was just absolutely clubbing them. And then they lose game 5 in OT. Game 6, they lose 7-5. And then you mentioned it. Remember, with a minute to go, they had this game won. They were up 3-2. Like the Panthers just couldn't get any sustained pressure going. It's just, you know, Boston, defended the shot, poked the puck loose, kept clearing it.
Yes.
And then that goal by Brandon Montour just shifted everything.
Yeah.
Like it shifted the entire mood of the series. Like you mentioned, the Bruins just played an awful overtime. An awful overtime. And you almost predicted, you're like, the Panthers going to win this.
Yeah. It was, you could feel when overtime started, you're like, oh, there is a shift. And I know the game was in Boston, but there was a shift as you watch this game. You're like, Boston is off. Like, I think that last minute tying it up kind of rocked them. I would be fascinated to do some sort of psychoanalysis on the players and find out. But that overtime was not the Boston Bruins that we saw all season long. I think it's very interesting.
And as we mentioned, the Tampa Bay Lightning broke that record a few years ago. And do you remember who they played?
No, who did they play?
The Columbus Blue Jackets. Swept them in 4 games. Do you remember who the goalie was?
No, who was the goalie?
Sergei Bobrovsky.
Okay.
Who was the goalie for the Panthers last night?
Sergei Bobrovsky.
Sergei Bobrovsky. Here's another plus for you. 7-1 in playoff games against teams that broke the all-time NHL wins record. That broke or tied the all-time NHL wins record. So if you feel like setting a record and you see Bob in that crease ahead of you, you might want to say a few prayers.
Yeah.
And how about another minus?
Yeah, I'm going to give a minus. And this hurts my heart a little bit because it's going to kind of speak something over a player I love, but I'm giving a minus to the Winnipeg Jets. Y'all.
I was ready to go in on the Winnipeg Jets.
Nino. You know, I love you. And so I don't want to speak anything over. I love Nino Niederreiter. He wormed his way in my heart in a very short number of games. But the Winnipeg Jets, and we had talked about this. You and I both had picked the Winnipeg Jets. And we had talked about, they had their come to Jesus moment. And it was right as the regular season ended where like, hey, you guys effed around and you found out. And now you've got to get ahead of the Nashville Predators and their 13-year-olds, their U18 team to get into the playoffs. And so it felt like they had their come to Jesus moment and that they were in a good place to go into these playoffs. And woof. Just woof, y'all.
But can I give a plus in that whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
Can I give a plus to the popcorn and tea salesman in Winnipeg who are going to be making gangbusters from everybody following this locker room drama that's about to unfold?
We got to talk about this.
For those of you who don't know, after Game 5, Rick Bowness absolutely ripped his team a new one.
Lost his mind,
if you haven't seen it, just said there's no pushback. Disappointed. Basically, like a lot of very strong words, which and all of them were correct words. And so, next day, Blake Wheeler was team captain, had that C strip before the season, comes out and basically says, you know what? Screw the coach. Basically said, yeah, we're all disappointed in what he had to say. Thought he should have been a man and handled it behind closed doors.
What do you think about that? What is your feeling on it? Because it was strong language. It was not just, man, we are so disappointed we lost. He said, I am so disappointed and disgusted.
Yeah.
Disgusted. It's the same crap we saw in February. No pushback. No push. I mean, he lost his mind.
Yeah.
What is your feeling on that as far as the coach coming out and doing
Bowness that? Or like Wheeler's response?
Both.
On Bowness, I mean, he's right. Like, you can't look at him as wrong. Like, the Winnipeg Jets played Game 1, and it's not like that was just like, oh, the Jets won a fluke series. I mean, they dominated that game. They controlled the game. They looked like they were going to be a tough team to play with, and then they, Game 2 kind of started out like that, and then Vegas came back, counterpunch, won that game, and from there, it felt like the Jets just kind of rolled over. There wasn't a lot of fight outside of maybe Connor Hellebuck keeping them in the game with some big saves every now and then. But I mean, it wasn't wrong. I mean, it's fiery, and if you're a player, I get it. Like, I don't know what's going on there. Like, maybe Blake Wheeler felt like he was in the locker room and saying, oh, tough breaks, guys, blah, 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 blah. And then go in front of the media and it's like, yeah, screw these guys. Yeah. But I mean, on the surface, like that's, if you're a fan, you want your coach to kind of speak that honestly, if you're getting that level of effort from the players, you kind of want them to rain fire and brimstone, and if you're Blake Wheeler, like I get it. Like if you're a leader and you felt like, coach wasn't giving you that message in the locker room, but was in front of the media, maybe he thought he was trying to just kind of, make himself kind of look better. I don't know, but it's a messy situation in Winnipeg. And we've heard this thing, about the locker room in Winnipeg just being a absolutely toxic dumpster fire. We've heard that from players like Paul Stastny who left, and it's you see it here. Like there's something that is going to need to drastically change. And the Jets came out yesterday and said Bowness is coming back next year. So, yeah.
I'm interested. Like as I watched this unfold, eating my popcorn, I tried. And sipping my tea, I tried to put it into Nashville Predators perspective. Can you imagine the response of the fan base? Because here's what I'll say. I've covered a lot of games, and there were plenty to choose from, where the Nashville Predators did not perform well and sat in the media room with John Hines and asked questions. And there was no question that John Hines was extremely frustrated. But John Hines never, ever, not one time, behaved like that, like Rick Bowness did. But if he had, wouldn't the fans immediately go, John Hines doesn't have a locker room? It's John Hines.
Yeah, but what happens is John Hines is like, oh, we didn't have it. We ran into a better team. Then you're going to get people that are like, oh yeah, John Hines, he's just doing lip service. He's not fiery enough. He's not calling it like it is. That's why this team sucks. He's not holding anybody accountable. People just don't like John Hines.
And that's just it. People don't like John Hines because I think you're going to look at this Winnipeg thing and you're going to go, yeah, those players. And I think there's an immediate, like, if it happened in Nashville, people would go, that John Hines. Yeah. A little bias there, maybe. I don't know.
A couple more pluses to get to in this one. But before we do, want to mention tomorrow's show. We, barring any random Predators breaking news, we are going to be starting our player report cards. We are going to be going through each player on the team. We're going to say some things we like, things we didn't like, things that need to improve, and maybe look forward to what they're going to do next year, if applicable. Tomorrow, we're going to be starting with Roman Josi and Colton Sissons. Two longtime leaders on this team. Should be an interesting conversation. That is coming up tomorrow on the Locked On Predators podcast. All right, Ann, we can't be hella pessimists. So how about some more pluses to talk about from the Stanley Cup playoffs so far?
All right, this is the plus of my heart, y'all. I have two pluses of my heart, but I'm going to start with this one. Can we all just say hallelujah, amen? We're here for you. We're so excited. Mattias Ekholm, baby, is moving on. Can we talk about that? Maddie is moving on. And I also want to give a shout out. Hopefully people have been following the Edmonton Kings series. It was a great series. Edmonton pulled it out and won that. But I want to give a shout out to Mattias Ekholm, not because he had great stats or anything like that, but one of the players who had amazing stats in this series was Evan Bouchard, who his season turned around when he was partnered with
Mattias Ekholm.
Matty Ekholm, just going in there, stepping into a role that makes other people better, doing that veteran kind of thing. So for me, fat plus Mattias Ekholm, and look, I don't necessarily like Edmonton, but now they have Maddie. And so wouldn't it be wonderful to see Ekholm win the championship? I mean, really.
Well, it'd be wonderful for our playoff brackets to come true, right?
It would not hurt at all, Mattias.
Yeah. He won the battle of the ex-Preds.
Oh my gosh.
Going against Arvidsson and Fiala over there.
Yeah, and there was a couple times where he and Arvidsson were on the ice together and kind of...
He clobbered Arvidsson on one play. Yeah. Dude. Laid him out on a hit.
I was like, be gentle. You're friends.
You guys are pals. You go ice fishing in Sweden together.
Yeah.
I don't know if they really do, but I assume they do Swedish stuff. They're all in a circle of Swedes.
I wonder why they don't invite me.
I don't know. Maybe you should put a call in to Mattias Ekholm and ask. I don't know. Keep putting him in your plus. I'm sure he'll come around.
I will.
Yeah. And to me, Anne, we got to give a big old fat plus to the babies of the NHL. The Seattle Kraken, they did it.
They did it. I can't
to quote Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, you did it, you sons of bitches. You did it. They beat the Colorado Avalanche. They knocked off the defending Stanley Cup champs in a 7-game series. They were up 3-2. Game 6 in Seattle, they get clobbered. You go to Game 7 in Colorado, you're thinking, all right, this is where the Avs are going to be the Avs. And the Kraken survive. Philip Grubauer, big part of that. But they did it. They did it. And now the Seattle Kraken first playoff series get maybe arguably the toughest team in the Western Conference, and the Avalanche, they're now moving on to round 2.
I mean, I don't think anybody predicted it. I think a lot of people across the NHL were like, oh, look they made their first playoff series. And I don't think the Kraken had any idea that they weren't supposed to be competitive. And look, Colorado, I think it's safe to say that on paper, Colorado is the better team.
Yeah.
On paper, Colorado is the better team. But watching that game last night, I stayed up way too late to watch that game. And the Seattle Kraken were so dialed in. Now, they were under pressure from Colorado through most of that game.
Yeah.
But that last third period, they came out and they were like, we have decided we will not lose this game. And they, like you said, they were in Colorado. That is no easy place to play. Reigning Stanley Cup champions. Y'all need to go listen to Locked On Kraken, our friend Erica Ayala today, because that episode is going to be lit.
Yeah.
Lit.
Yeah.
But Seattle.
Well, first off, take that, Colorado. Second of all, I mean, it's what I like about this is that the Kraken won the series. This wasn't one of those things where, like, you know what I mean, where Colorado just lost it, where they didn't have their A game. They're just making mistake after mistake after mistake. You know, this was a game in which I think Colorado, for the most part, you know, threw their best shots at Seattle, and Seattle withstood them and then picked the right time to counterpunch. I mean, you saw it last night, 2-1 win. You know, they held on late. I mean, Colorado was giving them everything they could.
They were.
But now we have Kraken versus Stars in round 2, which that is going to be an entertaining series for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, plenty to get to in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It is going to be a fun second round. Again, first round's not quite over yet. We got Devils Rangers game 7 coming up tonight.
Yeah.
That is going to be a very entertaining game. So plenty to kind of cheer for. And then we have some stuff in the AHL.
Let's go.
Milwaukee Admirals first round in the Calder Cup. It is 1-1 with the Manitoba Moose. Admirals won big in game 1. Moose came back in game 2. And you watched both of these games. For those of us who may not be able to watch every single Calder Cup game, what's your thoughts been of these first 2 so far?
Loved the first game. The Admirals came out and just immediately jumped on the Moose. They were up, 3-0. I thought it was a really very good offensive, aggressive game from the Admirals. There was one shot that I think that Yaroslav Askarov, who we love, I think there is one shot. Their player shot the puck from the red line, y'all, and just was getting ready to leave the ice and just whacked the puck, and it went in the net. And so Yaroslav Askarov, I think, is going to have postseason nightmares about that shot. But I really feel like they came out and did well. And this wasn't necessarily a game that was taken over by the guys who had played NHL hockey. This was a game where the players who had been in Milwaukee really worked well together. And I think, we had Luke Evangelista scoring in the second game that the Admirals lost in overtime. So they're definitely contributing. Jordan Gross had 2 goals in the first game. So they're contributing. But I love what we're seeing from this game. I will say this is some of the spiciest hockey I have watched in a long time. These 2 teams are snarking at each other like my kids did when they were tweens. Like, it is physical. It is high temperature. It is, it's been good. Now, have not seen Joakim Kimmel yet. The first game he was out serving a suspension. Second game, he did not come into the lineup. And I talked to Eric Dene about that. I'm like, I'm so interested. We didn't see him. And he said, they had a 6-2 win the first. You're not going to touch that lineup.
Yeah.
I think eventually we'll see Joakim Kimmel in there. We'll have to see what they do. Game 3, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. And it's on AHL TV, which you can stream online. They have a package for $30. You can watch all of the Calder Cup postseason games. And I'm telling y'all, it is a fun series. Series.
Yeah. Would you expect anything less from the affiliates of the Preds and Winnipeg Jets?
It is in the DNA of this matchup. It is spicy. Yeah. I do want to finish with a plus, though, that ties into this. I do want to finish with a plus. I want to give a plus to Cody Glass. Cody Glass, Winnipeg native, was at the game in Manitoba. Came and watched the Milwaukee Admirals and then spent some time in the locker room with the guys afterwards. So plus to Cody Glass for showing up. Now, I know he was headed that way to visit family, but for showing up for his teammates and cheering them on. So fat plus Cody Glass, like we didn't already love you.
Yeah, good to see it. And again, we will be cheering on the Admirals this week. There's a lot of people that think they're a team that can make a Calder Cup trophy run. We would love to see that. I know, and you would love to see that. Our buddy Eric Dene would love to see that. And we like having good content on this podcast, so we would love to see that.
For sure.
Later this week. And where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at InsideThePreds.com. You can find me on Twitter at ANK_Mama on Ice.
You can find me at penaltyboxradio.com. Follow me on Twitter _NSMorgan. Also be sure to follow the podcast LO_Predators. And subscribe, however you're listening, whether you're watching us on YouTube or streaming us on your favorite podcasting platform. We really appreciate every subscriber we get. Really helps us out. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back tomorrow with player report cards. See you then.